One question that I've been getting a lot of recently has to do with sound treatment and soundproofing a room for recording, especially for video. I'm absolutely not an expert in this area, but I do have my methods that work okay. So today I wanted to do something a little bit different and share those with you because there's sort of two approaches that I have to sound treatment. One of them is here at my work in my classroom because we have studio space and a lot more like professional gear, and the other is at home where I normally record most of my videos, and that is a little more low budget, I guess you could call it. So you might have seen this in previous videos, but my classroom has a few different studio spaces. One of them is this, which is really just a big empty room. There's no sound treatment. I'm using the Rode VideoMic NTG mounted on top of my camera, and you can probably hear quite a bit of echo. I did put some Auralex soundproofing material on the wall over here to try to reduce that echo, but honestly, it doesn't really do anything. And then we do have some of these Auralex sound panels which are movable. I have 4 of those, and those can be positioned to either create like a mini sound booth or to help reduce echo as well. Right now I'm using them for my online class setup, which I have another entirely separate video about. One thing we're super fortunate to have is a dedicated sound booth, which is really just a small room, but I have also worked to sound treat it. So if I'm out here in the untreated studio, you should be able to hear a little bit of echo in my voice, and as I walk into the more treated sound room, you should hear that kind of change a bit as I try not to trip over things. And so you should notice an improvement in my voice. We've got sound panels basically all on the wall over here, and they're just sort of arranged in almost a random pattern to try to trap sound waves. And then we've got a little corner over here which can be used for voiceovers, and if I walk over here, you should be able to notice that my voice has no echo when I talk. It's like it almost hurts your ears to be in there because it feels so strange. I think it's also really important to point out the difference between sound treating a room and soundproofing a room. And again, I am not an expert. I sort of just did what seemed to work the best for this space, and that's pretty much it. But when you're sound treating a room, you're essentially working with that room to make it friendly for recording audio, whether it's like podcast or video, just reducing echoes, making the sound as good as it can in that space. If you're soundproofing a room, that's totally different because you're trying to either keep all sound in that room or keep all sound out of that room. None of this space is soundproof at all. None of my space at home is soundproof at all either, but I tried my best to sound treat them. Now the stuff that I just showed you in here is pretty accessible. The Auralex panels that we ordered are about $300 or $400 for like a big box of maybe like 24 or 28 of them. So it's pretty accessible. They work great. They're super thick. They're flame retardant. Like they're really good sound panels, but they're not what you would find in an actual like sound stage. So let me take you next door and show you some of that. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, this space might actually look pretty familiar. Some of my earliest videos were all about how I'm pointing up here so you can see the video, were all about how I built this studio in this empty room. When this building was built, this was a big empty room, echoes everywhere like crazy. And how I built this set was there was a TV studio nearby that was closing down, and they were essentially liquidating everything that they had. And they told me you can take whatever set materials you want as long as they're out of here in like 2 days. So I got a truck, packed up everything, and then reconfigured it into a set here. Their studio was a whole huge soundstage, but really it was just a giant warehouse. It had 5 full-size sets, different sets they could go into. It had room for moving all the equipment between the sets, and it also had a giant control room sort of in the middle of it. It was a crazy setup. It was super advanced. But the thing that turned it from a warehouse to a soundstage was this soundproofing material right here. These are 4-foot by like 17-foot long strips of soundproofing material that were running from basically the floor to the ceiling along the entire perimeter of that warehouse, and that's how they sound treated it and turned it into a soundstage. Well, fortunately, they let me rip some of those off the wall, and I put them here, and this is what you would find more in like a Hollywood soundstage, a much more official thing than the panels you order for yourself as a consumer. And so I took as many of these as I could. They're very soft material, but they're filled with like fiberglass. So working with this was also the first time that I got to experience the terrible itch of fiberglass. They're incredibly heavy, and the back is like this foil cardboard material, which is basically just like razor blades. So to install them, I just bolted them to the wall, but it was an absolute nightmare, and I would never want to have to do that again. But it really worked, and it helped our studio to sound a lot better when we record and stream from here. And right now it's all set up to do stuff through Zoom because we're doing all online classes. So in terms of sound treatment, this is probably the most legit setup that I have access to and that I work with. The room next door I would call like a medium setup. And then what I have at home is just the stuff you buy on Amazon because it's super affordable setup. This is basically the sound treatment that I have at home. Just these sort of generic foam panels you get on Amazon. I'll put a link to these in the description. I think they're like $25 for 12 of them. I got them because they're blue and gray and those colors are cool. And I saw a lot of other people with foam panels on their walls and I was scared of missing out. You might say I had FOMO. And speaking of FOMO, I should mention I ordered 2 packs of these because one was not enough, so I needed to send in another order, FOMO, of them, for more of them. And the reason I wanted to focus on sound treating at all is because when I'm sitting here and filming my videos, usually using a shotgun mic on a boom arm like this. In this case, it's the Rode VideoMic NTG, which is on top of my camera, but normally that's just out of frame. And what I was noticing was it just wasn't sounding as good as I wanted it to. There was quite a bit of echo. And so I decided to try putting some sound panels on this door right here, which is directly where I'm speaking. So as I'm facing it, my sound is not bouncing off the door and back to me, but it's getting absorbed or stopped by the sound panels. And then I did also put a few up there above the door too. To take it a step further, I put a few panels on the ceiling, basically directly above where I sit when I record my videos or do my online classes, and then a few on the wall back there, and a few more on the wall over here. Now, does all this soundproofing make a difference? Like kind of. It's not amazing. I definitely notice a difference as somebody who films and edits in here a lot, but it's not a night and day difference. And like I said before, I just actually like the way that it looks, which is, I would say, a totally valid reason for putting on some foam panels, especially when they're not super expensive. Again, there's a huge difference between sound treating and soundproofing. I've got a drum set here and guitars and all these instruments. 100% you can absolutely hear these things from anywhere when I'm playing them in here. This room is not soundproof at all, but I'm trying to like sound treat it a little bit. And there is carpet on the floor. Carpet does help because then the sound doesn't bounce off of concrete or anything like that. And funny enough, the thing that actually helped the most is this 34-inch ultra-wide curved display. And this actually isn't even mine. I'm borrowing it from work while we're teaching our classes online. But I think that because it's curved and because I have it positioned right off to the side of where I'm normally speaking, it almost acts as an isolation shield and really stops some echo. So when I have to return this one to work, I'm definitely going to be getting one of my own because obviously, like, it really helps with productivity. I don't know how I would teach my classes and stuff with just one MacBook screen, but also it makes my videos sound better. So the display, the computer display, is the thing that makes my videos sound the best, which is probably not what you would expect. But my whole point in doing this video is to not only kind of dive into some of the basic differences between sound treatment and soundproofing, but to also show the scale of those. So these foam panels here are just really inexpensive ones that you can buy on Amazon. Anybody, you know, a kid in high school can easily afford something like that. Whereas the broadcast studio at work has the same sound treatment material that you would find in like a Hollywood soundstage. And obviously the quality and the results that you're getting from those things, there's a huge difference between them. But even though I've been doing this stuff for a long time, I don't consider myself an absolute expert in it, nor do I want to be. I just want to know what actually works. For somebody like me who, you know, finances everything himself to make stuff as kind of a one-person crew, what are the differences within this range of items and what is the impact that it's gonna have on your finished work? Beyond that, I don't really care if it's like a little bit messy or a little bit imperfect because I'm not trying to be a Hollywood production. I'm trying to be me making videos about stuff that I think is helpful and things that are gonna help other people make their videos look better and sound better, and definitely like investing in some sort of sound treatment is a good way to go. I also didn't mention sound blankets, which are kind of like these thick, they almost look like moving sheets for when you're moving house and whatnot. Those can be really helpful, and they're great, and they're portable, and if you have something like a C-stand, you can then drape the sound blanket over that and kind of immediately create sound blocks and block echoes and things like that. So there are a lot of things you can do to improve the sound of your video, to treat the rooms that you film in, and whether you do the least expensive route or the most expensive route, I think the best thing you can do is just to start paying attention to sound in the first place, and doing whatever is practical within your means to get the best sound possible for your videos, or your podcasts, or whatever you're recording sound for.